The Columbine Basement Tapes. The Columbine Massacre was, at the time, the deadliest school shooting to date. It may, in fact, also be the most analyzed and studied one as well. Dylan and Eric, the perpetrators of the attack, were two high school students from Columbine High School in Colorado, who would go on to kill 13 individuals in the school before eventually ending their own lives. Looking back, in hindsight, many feel they can see clues to their dangerous tendencies that at the time went overlooked by those around them. One such piece of evidence was a student film produced by the two entitled Hitmen for Hire, in which the two play hitmen who defend self-described geeks and wimpy kids from being bullied. The film contains references to not being allowed to bring weapons onto school grounds, murder, and threats of violence. However, you can watch this video. In fact, it exists right here on YouTube. The basement tapes, however, are a collection of about 4 hours of footage captured by Eric and Dylan prior to the attack. Allegedly, these tapes include explanations into their plans, answers to things like how they obtained the weapons, stories of times they almost got caught, and a call to action explaining how others can follow in their footsteps. The last recording is the final goodbyes of the two, believed to be filmed only 30 minutes before the massacre began. These tapes were seized by the police shortly after the attack and have never made it into the hands of the public, although family members of the victims were allowed to view them. Despite that, a few transcripts have been made public, and an audio clip from one of the parents as they viewed the tape would also surface, which is included in the transcripts, but not a single frame of the video has ever been leaked. Sometime around 2015, a group filed paperwork to have access to the tapes. However, they were informed by the county attorney's office that they had nothing in their possession related to this request. That is because silently, about 4 years prior, Sheriff Ted Mink gave his approval to allow the tapes to be destroyed, along with other evidence like their weapons. Someone from the department would add that they were not aware of any copies of the tape that still existed, saying they actually held on to them longer than they were required to do. In my personal opinion, this may be the best case scenario, as the massacre has attracted an almost cult-like following, and although some may argue it's erasing history, I think it is far more important to keep things like this out of the wrong hands. Hey, it's me. Real quick, if you liked the video so far, please consider liking it to help the algorithm and subscribing to see more content like this. Alright, back to it. Steve Irwin death video. Alright, you had to know this one was coming. In fact, it's probably well known enough that I could make a full video on this if I really wanted, but I couldn't leave him out of a video like this. Steve Irwin, also known as the Crocodile Hunter, was a wildlife TV personality from Australia who obtained worldwide fame in the late 1990s until his unfortunate passing in 2006. With an image of being an extremely wholesome animal lover who opened up the hearts of many to little-known or feared animals, Irwin's reputation was near spotless. After footage of him and his wife Terry trapping crocodiles together on their honeymoon was turned into a TV pilot, Steve Irwin quickly became a household name, either by his real name or his nickname, coined by the namesake of the show, the Crocodile Hunter. Steve would go on to star or appear in several movies, as well as about 19 TV specials and shows, all within the span of about 10 years. This, of course, all happened while he maintained his true passion of caring for animals, as well as operating the 700-acre Australia Zoo, which Terry Irwin still owns to this day. However, while swimming in the Great Barrier Reef, to film a segment for a documentary series called Ocean's Deadliest, Irwin would tragically die, and it was all captured on film. While swimming in only about chest-deep water, Steve attempted to capture footage of a short-tailed stingray. However, after being approached, the stingray would panic and stab Irwin with its tail. Reportedly, Irwin had grabbed the barbed tail and pulled it out of his torso, unaware it was actually piercing his heart. The end result was that he would, unfortunately, bleed to death, and after he was seen by medical staff, he was pronounced dead at the age of 44. I used the phrase captured on film, so you may be expecting to see it, but the footage does not actually exist, at least, not anymore. Just about a week ago, rumors about the video resurfaced, and a Crocodile Hunter producer came forward and said that after it was used by authorities, it was destroyed. According to him, it was the only copy of the footage to ever exist. Owen's death was mourned by the Australian Prime Minister, celebrities, and the world. Owen Hart's fall. Owen Hart was a Canadian professional wrestler who, perhaps most notably, worked for the WCW and WWF, the precursor to the WWE. As the youngest child of two wrestling promoters, he was a natural in the ring, despite the fact wrestling was not his first choice in career. Despite this, he still managed to become Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Rookie of the Year in 1987. He would end up wrestling for Stampede Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the WCW, and the WWF multiple times, as well as changing his persona, initially not even being introduced as Bret Hart's brother, who was also wrestling for the WWF at the time. On May 23, 1999, Hart would be portraying a character known as the Blue Blazer, and after being lowered to the ring from the rafters of Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri, was intended to be dropped flat on his face for comedic effect. However, during the event, which was televised for the WWF pay-per-view called Over the Edge, Hart would fall to his death. Although he had performed the stunt multiple times, in order for him to drop himself, his harness was equipped with a quick-release function. During his descent, it is believed that this quick-release function was triggered accidentally by Hart, resulting in him falling about 78 feet, landing on one of the ropes before being thrown back into the ring. Although viewers at home never saw this, as at the time a pre-recorded video was being played, and after it ended, all cameras remained on the crowd. Instead, a commentator described what had just happened to the people at home. He also assured them that it was not a storyline or some kind of gimmick. Tragically, what had occurred was that after falling, Hart hit the ropes chest first, and ended up passing away as the result of internal bleeding. The WWF made the decision to continue the event, and although it was never announced to the stadium full of fans, it would later be announced to the at-home viewers that Owen Hart had passed away from his injuries at the age of 34. Hart's family would sue the WWF and settle out of court for about $18 million, which his widow, Martha Hart, would use to open the Owen Hart Foundation, which assists with things like scholarships, food drives, and assisting children from third world countries. To the best of my knowledge and research, no copy of this footage has ever been released, nor has it ever made its way online. Likely, a copy does still exist in some wrestling company archive, perhaps in a vault buried deep underground, but I think that it's safe to assume it is footage that you or I will never see. Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee was an actor and martial artist, perhaps most well known as being the son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee. However, many would draw parallels between the two, including their unfortunate deaths at the cusp of a breakthrough performance. While playing Eric Draven for the film The Crow, Lee was supposed to film a scene in which he was shot by thugs as he enters an apartment before falling forward. However, after actor Michael Massey fired his revolver at Lee as planned, Lee fell backwards instead. As the scene concluded, however, Lee remained motionless on the ground, unaware to the crew around him that he had essentially just been shot. Like, actually shot. A documentary series called Cursed Films does a great job explaining what happened, but to sum it up, it all boiled down to negligence. In a scene prior to this one, the gun had been used in combination with dummy rounds, basically bullets without powder charges, in order to get close-ups of the gun with what appeared to be real bullets. Although the powder was removed, they forgot to remove the primer as well, resulting in the cartridge becoming lodged in the barrel, which, by the way, was a real gun. This would go unnoticed by the crew as they loaded the gun with blanks for its scene with Lee. Blanks just being powder and primers. Now, with all the makings of real ammunition in the gun, when fired, the lodged cartridge shot out and hit Lee in the abdomen about 4 meters away, with almost all the force of a real bullet. The crew had no idea that he had been shot, with some even thinking he was pretending, but when approached, they realized that he was unconscious, though he showed no signs of visible bleeding. Despite this, the medic team watched as his pulse slowed and stopped, all within the span of 2 minutes. And unfortunately, after being rushed to the hospital, where he received a 6-hour emergency surgery, he would be pronounced dead. Lee was 28 at the time and was buried next to his father in Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle. Massey, the actor who shot Lee accidentally, ended up being traumatized by the event, and although the film was completed as it was only days away from wrapping, I would just like to say with the blessing of Lee's family, Massey would never see it. Now the thing is that this was a movie set. Not only was someone filming, that was kind of the main point, but the answer to where the footage of Brandon Lee's unfortunate end is, it's frankly vague. Generally, it is believed that when filming began again several months after Lee's death, the director insisted that the footage of Lee's death be destroyed. Some of the cameramen claim this isn't the case, however, with some even claiming to own a copy of the footage. Despite this, the footage has never been released, with not even a single verifiable frame making its way to the internet. And since it's been just shy of 30 years since Lee's tragic death, I don't think it ever will. Christine Chubbuck. Christine Chubbuck was, as she had allegedly described herself multiple times, a woman with depression and suicidal tendencies. However, despite her struggles, she was still able to have a successful career as a television news reporter in Sarasota, Florida. Generally, it is believed that her depression stemmed from her inability to foster romantic relationships throughout her life, as she even reportedly made a club in high school for rejected girls without dates. But she also had a strong desire to have close friends as well, which she would ultimately reject through self-deprecation whenever someone attempted to get close to her. In addition to this, she had a crush on a coworker who did not return feelings for her, but instead was involved with Christine's closest coworker at the studio. She would lament to coworkers that she was about to turn 30 and had never been on more than 2 dates with a guy, and even joked with some that she had purchased a gun or was planning to end her life on air. These jokes were initially brushed off out of a belief that it was just dark humor, and her mother never raised concerns about her depression or suicidal tendencies to the studio out of fear that she would lose her job. Things would forever change, however, on July 15th, 1974, when Christine began a report for the segment Suncoast Digest. She covered national stories including a local shooting, but footage of the shooting was jammed and unable to be played. Christine said, "In keeping with the WXLT practice of presenting the most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news, TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first, in living color, in exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide." She would then reveal a weapon and pull the trigger after placing it behind her right ear. This is believed to be the first time such a thing had been captured on live TV. The broadcast quickly faded to black, and eventually the channel began to play a movie, while Christine was taken to Sarasota Memorial Hospital, where she was pronounced dead several hours later. Incredibly though, when examined, the papers Christine had been reading her segment from included the shooting as well, reportedly even a follow-up for the next person to read describing the events. The information given to other stations was taken right from Christine's script, with her even correctly guessing the hospital she would be taken to. The recording of this footage has never been seen since it aired live, and I have seen some claims that the footage was seized and destroyed by the station, but other rumors suggested a copy was held by the owner of the station, the late Robert Nelson. A common thread with these lost media, an alleged single copy held in secret. But believe it or not, this would actually turn out to be true, as it was confirmed by Nelson's widow Molly that he did in fact have a copy, though he never explained why. Molly was contacted by many people looking to obtain or see the footage, which made her very uncomfortable. As a result, she gave the tape to an unnamed, quote, very large law firm, and has no plans to ever make the footage available, leading some to refer to it as the macabre Holy Grail. Well, that's it for now. Be sure to like the video to help the algorithm and subscribe to see more content like this. If you enjoyed this video, why not check out this one where I talk about 5 crazy celebrity conspiracy theories. I'll see you next time.